Hey everyone, this is Steve Krause. I'm coming at you today from just outside the Union at Michigan State University. This is Grand River Street over there. Uh, I'm here today because my son's at a chess tournament, and I don't know, I'm taking a break making this little movie. Let me talk a little bit about some of what's coming up for the week first. This coming week is the beginning of the peer review for the visual rhetoric assignment. I just finished uploading the pages for that, so everyone should be in a group now. And if you should be in just one group, and if you're not in a group, that means I did something wrong. Excuse me. They're groups of 3. So it's a small group, and it's you and 2 other people, and read the instructions and go from there. There's 2 other things we're going to do this coming week. One is we're going to start talking about how we're going to divide up into groups for the collaborative movie making project. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a survey I want everybody to take. I'll post a link to it and answer it, tell me your name and answer it as honestly as you can. But basically what I'm trying to find out is I'm trying to figure out what kind of experience people have had in the past, how they feel about the technology stuff, and also their geographic location. So what I want to try to do is divide up groups so that there's some combination of people who have had some experience making videos before, people who are both, at least one person in the group is local, so that I can work with the group with that person, if nothing else. You'll see what I'm. The other thing that's going on this week is that on Wednesday at 3 p.m. we're going to have our first and perhaps only, it's hard to say, we'll see what happens in April, completely optional face-to-face gathering. It's going to be at 3 o'clock, and I'm going to say we'll meet at the Starbucks in the Student Center at EMU. So it's 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. At the Starbucks in the Student Center at EMU. If you can come for any of that time, that's great. If nothing else, it'll be an opportunity for you to come by, talk to me in person, maybe talk to some other people in the class in person. In your individual peer review groups, you might have a chance to talk about whether or not it's a good idea to gather together for that. That would be fine. But it's just it's just an opportunity for exchange, if nothing else. Okay, one last thing. And that's actually about the essays. I'm almost done with all of them. I haven't quite finished all of them yet, but I've passed back about 2/3 or so of them for both classes. There's 2 files that everyone's getting. One is the word process document that you sent, and the other is an audio file. It's an MP3 file of me, a recording of me reading through your essay, and it's essentially the comments that I had in my head as I was going through it. Some people like the audio comments, some people don't. I try not to come across as like taking some sort of tone or whatever, and I hope that you don't hear it that way. But what I'm trying to do is give you my sort of honest reactions as a reader as I go through it. I don't think that I don't think this was the strongest group of papers. So one thing that I do find a little disappointing about them is I spent some time before the assignment began giving people some advice on what they should do to do well in the assignment. And I kind of get the impression that not enough people either watched that little movie or took that advice to heart. So what I want to do here is just include that video with this video, and it'll wrap up about all my time here. So I'm just going to stop talking now and add that video, and I'll see you online.
The style rules assignment can be kind of a difficult one, so I wanted to offer a few tips on how to succeed at this assignment and in both the rule and the essay. The first step in succeeding with this assignment is that you've actually got to read the books. And I know that this is probably kind of a given for all kinds of different classes, but I'm serious about this. You really have to read through these books, and that can be kind of difficult because these aren't the kind of books that you read from beginning to end. I mean, they're both style manuals of different sorts, and they don't necessarily lend themselves to the same kind of reading as, say, a novel or something. But you really do have to sit down and start from the beginning and work your way all the way through the end of these books. No skimming, no skipping around, no thumbing through, no just looking stuff up. If you don't read carefully, you will not do well on the assignment. That's just a given. Now, as far as the books themselves, The Elements of Style is easy reading. I think that no one will have any problems finishing reading that entire book in an afternoon at best. Style, Terror, Clarity, and Grace, however, is quite a bit more difficult, quite a bit more challenging, and so you should budget your time accordingly. As far as the strategies for how to read these things, don't read the books just to figure out what the rules are. Read the books to figure out what the rules mean. Think about this as if it were like a literature class. In a literature class, when you read things, you sort of scratch beneath the surface. You dig into the text to figure out larger meanings. I mean, we don't read Hamlet just for the plot. It's not like we say, well, in a literature class at least, it's not like we say, well, Hamlet's about this guy whose dad gets killed, and the dad comes back to him as a ghost and says, hey, the dude that married your mom is the one who killed me, and I want you to revenge me. And Hamlet's like, oh, I don't know. Should I kill him or not? I don't know what to do. And so, like, let's have a play. We'll try to trick him, and it turns out he's poisoned, and then everybody dies at the end. You don't. That's not how we talk about Hamlet. That's certainly part of how you talk about Hamlet in a literature class, but more likely you're talking about what does a play Hamlet mean. Maybe you talk about it in terms of a historic context. Where was Shakespeare coming from when he wrote this play? Maybe you talk about it in terms of sanity and insanity. This is one of the great themes of Hamlet. Is he crazy or is he pretending to be crazy? Maybe you talk about the meta-theatrical elements, the play within a play. Maybe you talk about the sort of poetic use of language throughout the play. Maybe you talk about the Oedipal complex because of Hamlet and Hamlet's mother have this sort of strange kind of relationship. The point being, though, is that when you talk about Hamlet in a literature class, you scratch beneath the surface. You come up with different interpretations about its significance. So that's what we're doing here. This is not just about what the rules are. It's a question of what do these rules mean? And why these particular rules? Why is it that Strunk and White settle on the rules that they settle on? Why is it that Williams goes into the sort of detail that he goes into with his sort of rules? How are these? Why do they do the things that they did? Now, in terms of your particular rule and your essay about it, first you want to have one and only one rule. What I mean by this is that you don't want to have a rule where you explain about, say, punctuation of some sort, and then a rule explains about sentence structure, or that about, strong verbs or something like that. You just got to have one rule that you're going to follow through on. More specific your rule is, the better it's going to work. If you have a rule, for example, that talks about having characters and actions close together in sentences, or about how to control length in a sentence or something like that, that's going to work a lot better than a rule like write clearly, because write clearly is too big and amorphous of a rule. You need to explain your rule in your essay as well as on the class wiki. In other words, imagine an essay that you're going to hand in that's completely separate from the wiki. So on the wiki you're going to have a rule that you explain with your examples, but then when you hand in the essay for the class, you're going to have to re-explain that rule again in your essay. Assume an audience that's not familiar with these books. In other words, if someone came across your essay on the internet, knowing nothing about the assignment and knowing nothing about the books, what sort of things would you need to tell them? You're probably going to have to provide, for example, some basic summary about these books so that your readers can follow along. Be sure to quote and paraphrase in the books to support your points, because what you're trying to do here is you're trying to make an argument about what your rule means and how you came up with it and its significance, and drawing some comparisons between Strunk and White and Williams is the way to go about doing that. And of course you need to do that by quoting and paraphrasing from the books. And you need to have a works cited page. And finally, don't break your own rule. It's kind of funny in a not a necessarily funny way, but a ironic way, when somebody has a rule about how it's really bad to have incomplete sentences and comma splices, and then the essay that they write has a lot of incomplete sentences and comma splices. So be sure not to do that. Okay, let's dive into the assignment.